It's Tuesday in the spring, so why not add another Penn State football commitment to the class of 2025? I'm Thomas Frank Carr. Ryan Snyder, I always say we'll be back with the next breaking news video. I never know when the next one is. You never know when the next one is. The only person that has a better idea than that is Ryan and Sean Fitz. And even then, was this one a surprise how quickly this turned around for you, Ryan?
Yeah, we get a little bit of heads up sometimes, but yeah, this one caught me by surprise a little bit. We had to scramble a little bit today, hence why we're maybe doing this video a couple hours later than we'd probably prefer.
I was in the middle of doing something completely else.
Yeah, but let's get into it, right?
Yep.
Isaac Chukwurah, to make sure I may have got that wrong, but I tried my best to double check on the pronunciation. It's not Chukwurah or anything like that. It's Chukwurah. 6'2", 260-pound defensive lineman out of Caravel Academy in Bear, Delaware. Another Delaware guy. This is their third now, of course, when you add in Leighton Von Brandt, 2027. Of course, Jasir Rogers as well in the 2026 class. This one, I don't want to say moved quickly because Penn State has been showing interest behind the scenes for a little while. But when you look at like visits and how it all came about, it did move somewhat quickly, right? So let's go back to April 9th. It's a Wednesday. Penn State's not practicing on a Wednesday. He comes up for that visit that day. And, I think on one hand, it's kind of maybe beneficial to him that they weren't practicing that day because it just gave him a lot of time to spend with the staff. There wasn't a lot of other players or recruits on campus, things like that. And I think he does a great job from what I've been able to understand is, he fits Penn State well, just cares about a lot of the things that Penn State cares about, great locker room guy, just all those kind of intangibles. So, and I think that April 9th visit really kind of sets the floor for that, gives them that feel for personality. We'll say that. But here's the thing. If you're going to play for Penn State, right, you got to, it takes more than just being a good locker room guy to play at a school like this. And so he was presented basically the opportunity to do their virtual combine, which is very interesting. It's something we don't talk about a ton. If you've been following recruiting for a long time, you may remember back during the COVID days when Penn State was trying to collect information on prospects. And of course, they weren't allowed to go out. None of us were. We were all stuck at home, basically. They created this virtual combine, which is basically a way that they teach prospects and trainers to shoot film of 40s and broad jumps and stuff that can't be edited. Like it is absolutely verified. And you kind of see the whole motion for whichever workout it may be, in the lens, in the frame at the whole time. And so they've used this a little bit here in recent years. They probably use it more than I realized, but I know Josh Johnson last year was a player who really benefited from this virtual combine, and it's how he became, a commit eventually, and now of course a signee. And now Isaac is kind of the next one that we've seen really use this and use it to his advantage. He did that workout for Penn State a handful of days after. I'm not exactly sure when. I know Penn State kind of got the opportunity to evaluate it all, I want to say sometime early last week. Of course, he comes back to campus then last Friday, April 18th, gets the offer, and basically, boom, here we are. Now, to circle back on a couple other things. One, Isaac really took off after his junior season. And let me clarify also, too, he missed a lot of his sophomore season with an injury. So it isn't like he's a player that, schools have been evaluating for a year and a half now. I mean, really, his junior season was really kind of their first opportunity for him to put a whole season together. And he did great. 65 tackles. I think it was like 25 tackles for loss, 17 sacks, helped lead Caravel to a state championship. So, his junior season was
a guy that plays both ways as well, starting left tackle. And they actually use him less on the defensive side, I think, to give him some plays off. He doesn't start every drive at defensive end, but when they need him, like they bring him out on the field because they have to get a stop. That's who they bring in. They try to keep him as a third down specialist, but he ends up playing both ways the whole time.
Right. So his junior season's massively important. Picks up a bunch of group of 5 offers in January, February. I believe Wake Forest was the first Power 5 or Power 4 school, to offer in March. And then Boston College and Virginia Tech also offered in March or March, April, somewhat, we'll say this spring. Long story short, he sets up Boston College official visit, sets up a Virginia Tech official visit. And there were a lot of other schools showing interest. Duke visited Duke. He visited Syracuse. And Wisconsin. All 3 of those schools were going to come back down to Caravel and evaluate them because right now it's the spring contact period. There was others too. Michigan State, Pitt. There's a story up. You guys can all read the details on that now. What I'm getting at with all of this is, Penn State could have waited till June, right, to have him come camp, work out with the staff in person.
Yeah.
Doing the virtual combine now in mid-April, before all these schools come down to evaluate him, especially when they know this is a player who grew up, watching Penn State, would really like to be part of Penn State. It's a really smart move on their staffs, by the staff, excuse me. Because again, it just kind of, it skipped the line in some ways, right? Why give all these other schools an opportunity to come evaluate him when you can get the information you need right now? So it's just kind of funny looking back 4 or 5 years on how this all came about, the virtual combine situation, and now how it really benefited them with Josh Johnson last year and now with Isaac this year. So I just kind of wanted to lay that all out there because I was thinking like, man, it's strange. Like, why wouldn't he camp? Thinking all these things. And I'm thinking, it's the spring contact period. Why have all of these schools come down and evaluate him? And again, I think he probably would end up at Penn State anyway, but why give him the opportunity to take official visits to Michigan State, Wisconsin, wherever it may be, if these schools decide to offer.
And as you mentioned, just to kind of underline this, a guy who, when I was doing the prep for this, was not rated by all of the all of the different sites. Since then, since committing, he's gotten a 3-star rating by 247 and Rivals. So this is a fresh eval. And just to give you a perspective, because I think a lot of people, the question is there's a couple of questions when you talk about a player like this. So let's show you the film here. I'm super high on him after 45 minutes of watching film. This is the first thing is he is really athletic. Now, if you were to say this guy, is he a Penn State defensive end? I don't know if he's got like the high end speed explosiveness, but when you look at the fact he's 6'2", 260, we're talking about a likely defensive tackle, maybe a tweener, but a guy that I would say at this point, if he's 260 right now, Ryan, this guy's going to play defensive tackle, right?
Yeah, that's what I fully expect for sure.
Yeah, so that's an insane athlete. He is an insane athlete for 6'2", 260 to play defensive tackle at Penn State. Unbelievably long arms. Anytime I see a guy who's the joke is you can scratch your knee standing up straight, like he's pretty close to that. So we're talking 33+ inch arms. I wouldn't be surprised if it's over that. And then at 6'2", with that arm length and his pad level, his flexibility, his athleticism, this is a guy who's very raw. But he reminds me a little bit of Xavier Gilliam last year, where he's an edge player. You could say, like, right now, if he was playing college edge right now, okay. But he's going to be bigger. And how big can he get? I don't care about height. I care about what's your effective football height. And that's how long you are. That's your wingspan. On his huddle highlight, he has an 82-inch wingspan is what he says. I don't have that verified, but I don't think it's that far off. And then you look at the explosiveness, the physicality, the power. The Delaware school, competition, Ryan, obviously I not the strongest. We're not talking about some guys like Alex Haskell who plays better competition, but at the same time, they're not so far off. When you watch him here on the highlights, you watch some of the full game film, there's some big guys with some strength that can get in his way and frustrate him, but he dominates in a lot of these ways. And the thing, Ryan, that I am most impressed with, it's not just that he dominates. It's not just that he's strong and like runs through contact like it's not there. It's the mentality in which he plays. I think all of this points to a really, really good defensive tackle prospect.
They're really excited about him for sure. And I think that's why you have to do the virtual combine, right? The competition isn't, what it may be for, like you said, an Alex Haskell or, some of those Maryland, DC schools and all that. But if you get those verified numbers and everything that we understand came back pretty strong, that makes it easy for Penn State to say, you know what, let's take a guy like this. What's the downside of it? So I think they're really excited to get him. Obviously, we are still watching Alex Haskell to make maybe a commitment in May, and there will be other defensive linemen, Damari Simeon, Keyshawn Stansel. I mean, to me, Keyshawn Stansel is going to be hard for them to get, but Damari Simeon for sure is a guy we're going to be focused on. And of course, there's a ton of edge rushers too. So the fact that they are taking Isaac when they are taking him now, tells me that they feel pretty good about, first off, maybe the size of a defensive line class that they could take. I do feel like they're in a good position with quite a few edges. Of course, Daniel Jennings is already committed as well. But this is it's a pretty strong year, definitely a very strong year for edge rusher in the region. And, whenever you're able to get quality defensive tackles, guys of this size with that athleticism, it's important. It's important to take those guys when you can, because once other schools detect that information or are able to learn that information, we see defensive tackles just kind of snowball. And it's like offensive tackle. There's a handful of positions, right, where there's only so many people with that size and athleticism. And at a spot like defensive tackle, you got to be more aggressive there than maybe doubling down on different evals and things like that. They know what they're getting into here, though.
I like to, there's a couple things here that I like in terms of the fit makes sense, right? You got Virginia Tech, Duke, Manny Diaz, Brent Pry, an athletic defensive tackle, somebody who's going to be able to move and make athletic plays. All the things are there. The thing that I like, and I'm not saying it's exactly this, it's just what I saw in film. He looks like a Boston College defensive lineman in that he is going to be physical and gritty. And there's some stuff on film in terms of like, he looks hurt playing sometimes, and he's playing through it, and he's doing all he can on the field. Like you want that from a player as well. So there's a lot of really positive signs for Isaac Chukwurah on film for Penn State football. I blacked out. I was like, I know it. I practiced it 4 times. I'm going to say it once in this video.
I've been saying Chukwurah all week. And I literally blind called him like right before this. I hope he's watching this. I was like, hey, man, I apologize. I've already bugged you enough today, but I realized I didn't ask maybe the most important question, which is, how do I pronounce your last name? So Chukwurah. Yeah, we're going to go with that. I'm probably still mispronouncing it a little bit, but Isaac's a great kid, heck of a player, it looks like. And I know Penn State's really excited. I'm excited to get to know him more, man. I've only had a couple conversations with him so far, but, you can tell, raised well, cares about the right things. And, Penn State certainly understands what kind of athlete he is, and they're excited to get him.
Hopefully you learned a little bit more about the latest Penn State football commit here. If you have, like the video, subscribe to BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. If you do that, you'll be entered to win a yearly subscription to the site, so you can get this information faster, more efficiently, sooner, all those things in terms of like all the information at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. We get to you here on the YouTube channel, give you the highlights, give you the Cliff Notes version, but there's always we only do these for like 15 minutes, the maximum for these commitment videos. So there's way more than 15 minutes of conversation about these players. So join us at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. If you subscribe, we're going to be picking 5 winners to earn that subscription through the contest here, and we're going to be wrapping that up Blue White Weekend. Ryan, any final thoughts here about the class of 2026 defensive tackles? Isaac, anything here you want to add with?
4 commits now, 2026, 5 total in the past month when you add in Khalil Taylor. So they're certainly on a roll at the moment. And it's the Blue White game this coming weekend. So who knows what's going to come up? But it's good momentum for Penn State right now, and they'll certainly keep it going. They work their asses off. Let's just say it. And, we have the contact period coming up, so they're going to be going all over the country evaluating guys here, recruiting. Like we've said it like the last 3 weeks on the show, man, recruiting is moving nonstop, and it's not going to stop for, 2+ months now, at least, probably 3.
Buckle up. We got more to come here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. We'll talk to you next time. News breaks here from Blue White Illustrated.